Hi Geometry, this is Unit 1, Lesson 13, and this is about rotations, and this is page 95 of our workbooks. So this says that the semaphore alphabet is a way to use flags to signal messages. Here's a signal that signals the letters Z and J. For each, precisely describe a rotation that would take the left-hand flag that's marked with an L to the right-hand flag that's marked with an R. So when I describe a rotation, I have to have a center, I have to have a direction, and I have to have the degrees that I want my rotation to be. So taking a look at Z, if I'm traveling from my left-hand flag to the right-hand flag, so I'm starting at L and I'm going to the R, that means my direction is what we would call clockwise, because if I'm thinking about a clock on the wall, when my arrow is traveling in this direction, if I'm creating a circle, that's considered clockwise. So in this case, I'm moving clockwise around, and we'll just call it where the arms meet up right here. We'll just say around where arms meet. Usually that's a point, arms meet. So we're going, my direction, my center is where the arms meet. My direction is that it's clockwise, and how many degrees? Well, if I think about this left arm being perpendicular with the ground, that would make 90 degrees with the vertical. So maybe this is 45. I'm completely estimating the 45 degrees. If you feel like it's slightly more, slightly less, that would be fine right there. We're just estimating that amount. So let's take a look at this side. If I'm traveling from L to R, I'm going counterclockwise. This movement would be opposite of a clock. And so we call this counterclockwise. That's my direction. And then this is around, again, where the arms meet, Usually that's going to be a point. Now we have to figure out the degrees. This really looks like a right angle to me, where the left arm and the right arm are. So in this case, I think that's 90 degrees. So when we use abbreviations, we use CCW for counterclockwise, so we don't have to write it all the time. And we use CW for clockwise. So let's take a look at doing rotations on a grid. So there's two types of grids that you need to be able to work with. One is square grids, which are basically, you'll be asked to do things like 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, or perhaps even 360 degrees, things that are multiples of 90. And then we also have these hexagonal grids, and these particular grids are full of triangles. They're full of equilateral triangles. So when I look in this grid, if I look at one of these little shapes off to the side, and I look at this little center like a pinwheel, if I want to think about the spokes on maybe a bike, for instance, or the spokes that would be on a Ferris wheel, then each one of these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spokes going around. There's 360 degrees in a circle. 360 divided by 6 means each of these have 60 degrees. Well, an equilateral triangle happens to have all three angles are 60 degrees. So when I'm working with one of these types of grids, you're going to be asked to do rotations of 60 degrees or 120 degrees or 180 degrees or 240 degrees or 300 degrees or 360 degrees. They're going to be multiples of 60 degrees because that's how we move around this type of graph. So let's take a look at this graph right here. The first one asks us to go 90 degrees, that's my degrees, clockwise is my direction, around Q. Q would be my center. So here's my Q. And I'd like to take this entire figure, A, B, C, D, and I'd like to rotate it about Q. So in this curriculum, we use patty paper. You can do it with counting as well. I sometimes do that just because I find it quick, but we can measure with our patty paper for our rotations. So I have you trace your figure that you're rotating. If you're going to use patty paper, you're going to trace your A, B, C, and D points, and you trace your center. This is my center Q. So I'm going to hold my pen on my center very tight so that my paper doesn't slip. And I'm going to rotate now 90 degrees clockwise. Clockwise is the direction of a clock. And 90 degrees, I need a visual. So I'm going to connect A to Q in my mind. That pink vertical line, I needed to travel 90 degrees. That pink vertical line will have traveled 90 degrees right there. I'm kind of halfway through the square, so there's my 45. This has my pink vertical line has now traveled 90 degrees. It's now horizontal. If I went around 90 more degrees and pointed it down vertical, I would have went 180. Let's come around another square. So now I'm going to move it back to being horizontal. That just took my point A 270 degrees around my point Q. And if I go another square, so I move my pink line up until it's vertical, now I'm back 360 degrees and I traveled all the way around Q. So you can almost see through the patty paper, this is that 90 degree, that 90 degrees I want to travel. I want my pink line to become horizontal. And once I've moved point A, I've actually moved all my points. So I can simply lift up my patty paper. That's one of my points. It happens to be D. So this would be D prime. This is one of my points. It was C, so that would be C prime. And this is my other point B. So this would be B prime. And let's not forget my first point, A. So this would be A prime when I lift it up. And so when I connect those, better with my straight edge, my lines never look very good when I freehand it. So I should not be doing that for sure. When I connect my points of my image, I get A prime, B prime, and C prime. This is the image after a 90 degree clockwise rotation. So let's take a look at the second one. It says to rotate the same A, B, C, D, and this time it wants me to rotate it 180 degrees. Notice it doesn't say clockwise or counterclockwise because 180 degrees doesn't really matter. So when I move something 180 degrees, it will just be half a circle. It doesn't matter which direction I go. R is almost on the very edge, so I'm going to just put my pen on the very edge. And I'm going to go ahead and go counterclockwise. Again, I need something to line up. So I'm going to line up this center with A. And so now I'm only going to concentrate on this little line between R and A, this horizontal line. I want to move that little line 180 degrees, and then I will have moved my entire figure that. So if I move my little line until it's pointing straight up, I've now moved it 90 degrees. And if I move my little line till it's horizontal again, I've now moved it 180 degrees. And it makes sense that it would be a straight line on the other side, almost like a reflection, if you will, because we just looked at those the other day. So this would be my A prime. And all my other points are where they need to be as well, too. So I have my D prime. And then over here, let me line it up a little bit better, sorry. And then I have my C prime. And then finally up here, I have my B prime. And I really should use a different color so that no one's confused. This would be my rotation around R. We'll do it in purple. And we'll lightly shade it in. And this one is the one that I did in purple. So let's take a look at my rotations when they are on a hexagonal grid. So The first one it wants me to do is 100. It wants me to take H, J, K, L, M, and N. This is my original figure. 120 degrees clockwise around O. So O is my center here. Notice when you're going to do number 4, it's counterclockwise and it's around P, which is down here. So this is clockwise around O, 120 degrees. So looking at O, again, remember these are spokes, if you will, and from each pink spoke to the next one is 60 degrees all the way around, 360 total degrees. So again, I draw my shape anywhere I want it to be. I'm going to label my vertices K, J, H, N. This is my M. The better you draw this, the easier it is to do your image, by the way. This is my O, so I'm going to hold my pencil really tight here, but I need something to help me move it. So O connects to K right here. I'm just going to mentally connect these two. These are connected in my mind. I went ahead and drew the line. I want to take, I'm not even thinking about my figure, I want to move this line 120 degrees clockwise. So it's going this direction. So this would be 60 degrees and this would be 120 degrees, 2 clicks, if you will. So let's not even worry about my figure. Let's worry about my imaginary line connecting K to O. And I'm going to go the first 60 degrees, and then I'm going to go the second 60 degrees for my 120 degree rotation. Since I've just moved this line 120 degrees, I've also moved my shape 120 degrees. So I know that my H prime is right underneath here, H prime. I know that my N prime is right underneath there. I know that my M prime and my L prime. Finally, my K prime, and then moving it out to my J prime. So I'm going to move this so that I can lightly shade this in. This is my shape. In pink. This also reminds me, if you could go up to the one above, I really should have used something besides A prime, B prime, and C prime for this, because that's what I used for my first problem number 1. So problem number 2, let's make it double prime. So then it's A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, so that I know it's not the same letters. So let's take a look at then number 4. It says to rotate H, J, K, L, M, N 60 degrees counterclockwise around P. So I'm going to take this same shape, but now I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise, which is opposite of a clock. And I'm going to rotate it around P. So again, I need something to help me do the rotation. So visually, I connect it. It's far easier for a lot of students to connect it to L, because L is on one of the sides of my triangle, than it is to do J or H. You can do J or H. It's just harder for some students to do the clicks, if you will. So I chose L because L and P are one of the sides of this triangle you can faintly see underneath my patty paper. So I want to move this line 60 degrees counterclockwise around this point P. So 60 degrees counterclockwise would be this direction, and 60 degrees is just one click. It's just to the other side of the triangle. So let's move that entire line one click. When I do that, I've also moved my entire figure 60 degrees around P counterclockwise. So I know that M prime is approximately here, L prime is approximately here. I know my K prime and my J prime. They're really just one triangle over. I don't even need my patty paper for that part. And then this is 2 triangles over. So this is my N prime. And then finally, one down from J would have to be my, in this case, my H prime. Oh, and I need to make it a double. Let's go around and make double primes. so I don't confuse it with my pig shape. And then again, I can fill this in. Shade in my shape. And this would be my 60-degree rotation counterclockwise around P. So we're gonna look at 13.3 in Zoom together. So for right now, we're gonna pause on that. And if you could flip it over to the summary. Most students are okay with the 90-degree rotations, but try tracing A, B, C, D. Try then rotating it 90 degrees clockwise around point P to get the answer. You can see it right there. These hexagonal grids are harder for kids. So you could practice on here. You could trace this on your patty paper, connect it to C. You could practice moving your patty paper 1, 2 clicks and to line up your new F prime. And then you could get your other 2 from your patty paper. So you could practice on top of this right here. We'll be looking at more problems like that. You'll have more practice at the hexagonal grids in our class too. Thank you.